So tonight, as I said, it's March 19th, 2019. So most investment clubs by now have completed their tax season. And so congratulations to you club treasurers for another successful year of preparing your club's tax return and submitting it to the IRS and to the relevant states. Just to give you a little update, there are still some state deadlines still ahead. Some states didn't change to that March 15th deadline that the IRS changed to. The New Jersey State Club Tax Printer was finally released this week. They changed their format so to support a barcode style return, and so just took a lot of finicky moving pixels around for them to be satisfied. So we were able to release that, and those clubs still have plenty of time to file their state return by the April deadline. This year we released the New York State e-filing. The state mandated that clubs in New York only e-file, and so we were able to offer that, and it worked well for clubs. The number of clubs using our club tax printer e-filing for the IRS increased about 35%. It's still a mystery why everyone doesn't take advantage of e-filing. You get near instant confirmation, and it really streamlines and is a more efficient and less expensive way of filing your returns. So if you didn't use the e-filing this year, try it again next year for sure. Some of the problems, we are constantly monitoring problems. We did note that the IRS had 2 server outages this year that complicated filing for some clubs. We didn't get the errors submitted back. They just, because the server wasn't running. So when those clubs resubmitted, it turns out the IRS had received the return. And so those are just par for the course. So we're continuing to try to improve the process. But I think all in all, it was a very successful club tax season for us, and I hope for your club as well. Tonight, I wanted to go over some of the new enhancements and improvements that we had been working on for the MyIClub website. We constantly are releasing new updates, making small adjustments, and these are often based on customer suggestions. So if there's something that you would like to see us doing differently, please feel free to send in a feature request, and we will definitely take a look at that. But some of the features that we've have not yet talked about, they've been released in the last couple of months. The first is the pre and post meeting wizards. Now, wizards are something that we released in Club Accounting 3 back in 2006 when we released that version of the desktop program. And as you know, we're phasing out that desktop program. And so we added the wizards into the MyIClub program. These are for the treasurers. They provide step-by-step transaction entry for the most common transactions that the treasurer needs to enter before and after the meetings. It's really an easy way to make sure that you take care of all of the transactions and get ready for your club meeting, and really makes it even easier for anyone to be your club treasurer. The wizards are in the accounting section in the left navigation. You can see the little, they have a separate category just for the wizards, and there's a little new indicator there. We wanted people to pay attention and note that the wizards were there. So the monthly pre-meeting wizard walks through the following steps, and if you have none of these tasks to complete during the pre-meeting wizard, you can skip over it and move on to the next one. But it allows you to add new members to your club. It allows you to enter member deposits and member fees. It allows you to enter new transactions, security transactions, cash transactions, interest, dividends, etc. It prompts you to create your valuations for your valuation statement, and then to print the reports that your club is used to seeing, or generate those reports, we'll say. And so that's the pre-meeting wizard. The post-meeting wizard allows you also to add new members. So if you voted to add a member after a club meeting, you may want to enter them right away. Enter member deposits and fees from the meeting, process any member withdrawals that were approved during the meeting, enter any new security and cash transactions, prepare your security valuations if necessary, and print reports. And so as you go through these wizards, the little timeline across the top changes and shows you the progress as you go through it. Once you start working in the wizards, you can't exit the page. It'll give you a warning so that you don't leave halfway through. And so we think this is just a great feature to help make it even easier for treasurers. Most of what you do as a club treasurer can be handled with those wizards. So I'm happy that we were able to get them into the program. We added a new report, and again, this was based on a user suggestion, the member payments and fees report. It's a very simple report, but it lists all the member payments and fees for selected dates and for all or selected members. It's available in the annual and occasional report section of the report. So this is a great way to see who has paid in since the last meeting or since a year to date, for instance, or for an entire year. Yeah, you can get a quick report of who's paid their dues, paid any fees that your club might change. And so the report looks something like this. It just has the members' names, the payments paid in to date, the fees paid in to date, and the total paid in for date. This is just one of those things that can be easy, especially if you are a club that does levy fees. It's not something that we recommend, but if you do and you want to track who's paid those fees in the course of the year, this can be a quick and easy way to get at that information. In the member info listing report, which is sort of your contact sheet for your club members, we added the name of the emergency contact, not just the phone number. So we added that emergency contact phone number to the profile screen a couple of months ago, and now we've added the name and the phone number there in the information listing. That is good practice for clubs. We don't recommend that clubs get bogged down in trying to create beneficiary statements or try to come up with any sort of payable on death kind of scheme for your investment club. But we do think it is good practice to have emergency contact information on file for each member. And so this is a great place to reconcile that. We have had in the past, it's happened more often than you would expect, that a member of a club dies and the members have no additional contact information for next of kin, and they can't seem to contact anyone to process the final withdrawal. And so if that happens, and if the family is not responding or you're not connecting with them, then you've got to go through a process of sending those proceeds off to the state, and they become unclaimed property. So that's just another level of complexity that we think that you should try to avoid. And so that emergency contact information is a great place for that. It's not just if somebody gets sick during a club meeting, who you're going to call, but it goes beyond that, has ramifications that can really help when you're having issues, especially for clubs where the members may not all be social in the same social circle, for instance. So I would suggest that would be something that you can update. Take that to your next meeting and make sure everyone provides that additional contact information, emergency contact information, and update it in their profile. And they can do it themselves on the My iClub website. Another feature that we released last week is an enhancement to our voting. We have an online voting module in My iClub, and that allows your administrator to enter a ballot, and you can toggle that ballot so that it gets tallied in a number of different ways. You can set the date for when people vote on it, and then send reminder emails. They send an email once it's set up, but we also, some people wanted to know, they would see that certain members, the number of members who had voted, but they couldn't see who hadn't voted. And so the new feature allows the administrator to see who has and who hasn't voted, and then with one click can send a reminder email to those who haven't voted saying, hey, come back and make sure that you vote on this ballot before it expires. So it's only those who have the appropriate privileges to see it, so not everyone can see who has and hasn't voted. So from the current motion in the voting tablet, click the little link to see who has and hasn't voted. And so here it is, it's highlighted. And so that information all the way down to that button that says send reminder email to non-voting members, that all expands and collapses. So if you are the administrator, so that allows you to see who has voted, who hasn't voted, and get in touch with them and say, hey, guys, you need to come back and take care of this particular bit of club business. Another feature that we added earlier last year was we added the club's archived tax returns to the file storage area. Again, we get a lot of people who have difficulty finding their archived tax returns in the taxes tab, and they just wanted to have the PDF. And so this is a way, and we've had improvements in the past where we have redone the club tax printer module on the server side, and so the prior PDFs were not accessible because the routines all changed. And so we decided, well, if we archive them in the file storage area, then we'll be able to maintain them there. Now, there's a couple of things that you need to know about the file storage area and the tax returns that are there. Not all members can access all sections of your club's IRS return, right? And that's because of the sensitive nature of the Social Security numbers that are in the Schedule K1 and in the Schedule B2 and other sections of the tax return. So the way the file storage area works, it's the same privileges, the same permissions, if you will, that govern the taxes tab are at play, and then only members who have appropriate privileges can see the complete return. Everyone else gets to see the complete return, less the member K1s, less the Schedule B2, which is the opt-out form from the audit rules that has member Social Security numbers on it. So that's the way that it works. And also, and some people comes as a surprise to them, but we don't actually store PDF files of your tax returns in the taxes tab or in the file storage area. Those links, they're kind of magic links. When you click on them, we regenerate your return based on the last time that you generated those returns and give you that final PDF. So we have all the information in an encrypted database. And so that is a highly secure database on the server. And so when you click a link to download your 2017 tax return, we're not just sending a file through the web browser, we are regenerating on the My iClub server your tax return, and then we're delivering it through the encrypted browser session down to your computer. And so this is, again, just part of our security practices. We know that a lot of clubs who are using the desktop version are reluctant to move over to the My iClub, the cloud-based solution, because of concerns about privacy and security. But so we spend a lot of time trying to make sure that our practices are well documented and that we are doing the best to protect that sensitive information. And so this archive tax return section works the same way. And so if you are the treasurer and you click the link, you're going to see the complete return. But just know that every other member of your club, when they click the link, they're going to see something a little bit different. Here is the file storage area. Down at the very bottom is the taxes tab, and then you can see the in this case 2015, 2016, 2017 federal taxes. And so just keep in mind, we were thinking, we talked about this last week about adding a little note to this taxes area that would just remind people that the tax returns here are governed by the same permissions that govern the taxes tab on the My iClub website. It's just an more accessible version that takes you not to the place where you can regenerate your returns, but where you can retrieve the last version of the return, which is the version that you submitted to the IRS. So that's some of the features. We're now that tax season is over, we're actually going to start working on some other new enhancements to the website. We've got some big plans for this year, so we're going to be working on that. Those plans, and you'll hear about them in the future. If you have any questions, please feel free to let us know now. I see Bess has asked, where do I find the procedure for a club declaring a dividend for its members? That's a great question. There's no function for distributing a dividend within the program, but that's because a dividend is really just a distribution, or you're just the members are taking their money out of the club, and that is a partial withdrawal. So if you want to declare a dividend, you would just process a partial withdrawal of your of the members, and you can make that the same amount if everyone is, or the same percentage, depends how you set it up. Because it's a partial withdrawal, Russell, correct me if I'm wrong, but the partial withdrawals, you're taking out the money that you put in comes out first. Isn't that correct?
Yes. So as a partnership, you have an aggregate cost basis. You don't have a cost basis assigned to individual units. So you can take out as much as your cost basis, which is the paid in plus earnings on the member status report. You can take that out in any one year and not pay taxes on it, as long as you don't take more out than that. Yep. It's a tax-free distribution.
Yeah, so that's keep that in mind. I mean, I would imagine that if you're big enough that you're considering a dividend, that it wouldn't be that you wouldn't be taking out so much that it would come close to each member's paid in plus earnings. But that's just something for you to keep in mind, that the quote dividend is really a return of capital. That's a better way of thinking about it for your club. It's a return of the members' paid in capital into the club. And so as you figure out how much you want to distribute, you just keep in mind how much each member has put in, and that there could be a taxable amount if any individual member exceeds how much they've put into the club into the first place. Well, if there are any other questions, I'll give you a minute or two. Sonia says, we had a member totally withdraw. After she was paid out, it was found that a check was written for the tax software prior to a withdrawal. Now the check written to her doesn't match her withdrawal paperwork. What's the best way to correct this? Yes. So here's the problem. Let me try to understand this. So you withdrew the member, and then after the withdrawal, you had another expense, and so you back entered that expense, which caused an adjustment to the members. So in effect, you overpaid the member because their share of the tax return software reduced their payment amount. In this case, I would suggest, I'm assuming that we're not talking about hundreds of dollars, we're talking about a few dollars. What usually happens in this case, on a practical level, you can't really go back to the member and say, you got to give us back money. That's just bad form, and it's a problem. And so what you want to do is go back to the final withdrawal, and adjust the fee section, the member withdrawal fee section, and then so that the total amount of the withdrawal equals the amount of the check that you sent, that you gave to that member. So we're in essence, we're using the withdrawal fee as a little fudge factor to make the amounts work out in the end. And again, I'm assuming that we're not talking about material amounts here, that it's going to be such a big deal. Yes, the members are going to have to bear the additional cost of this member's share of the tax printer software, but again, sometimes that's just the what you have to do. Russell,
Doug?
any?
Oh, I was going to
Yes.
add, since you overpaid her, the fee you enter is going to be a negative number, so it will increase her payout versus what the program will say what she was worth on that with the expense entered.
Okay.
Now, if the to me, if the dates are close, you might just delete the expense and enter it dated after the withdrawal, and that will then keep her what you paid out. It will match the withdrawal forms too.
Yeah,
If there's
that's
a big
absolutely.
time difference, I wouldn't do it that way. But if it's really short, a few days, a week at the most or something, if that's the difference, you might just enter the expense the day after the withdrawal, and
Yeah.
things will match that way too.
Yeah. Probably won't make that much of a difference on a month-to-month basis in terms of everyone else's valuations, but just keep it in the calendar year. That's all that you really need to worry about. And that's not even as important anymore because investment expenses are no longer really deductible. So even though they're not, um, even though you enter them, none of your members are really going to get benefits from investment expenses. Raymond says, "Oh, where is the new member payments and fees report?" If we jump over to my iClub and I'll click on the reports, if you scroll down, we've organized this, by the top is the monthly and the frequently accessed reports, and there's the whole portfolio report section. We've got the whole bunch of individual graphs here, specialized reports, and then the annual and occasional reports. And the payments and fees is down at the very bottom. And so that's where you can, here's where you can select all members, for instance, including or select active members, and then click submit and get the report there. So that's where you can access that particular report. Bess asks, is there a recommended number of stocks to hold? And yes, no. um, yes, I do have a recommendation. Based on investment analysis that's been done on optimizing rates of return and risk in a portfolio of stocks. In my estimation, a portfolio of 15 to 20 stocks provides the most amount of the lowest amount of risk for the highest amount of return. And so as you add stocks above 20, you tend not to decrease the risk in your portfolio any further, but you also tend to decrease the returns in your portfolio. And this is why large portfolios, large mutual funds can't often outperform the S&P 500 because they have to own hundreds of stocks, and so they really are an index fund, but they're expensive to run because they're supposedly actively managed. So my rules of thumb are 15 to 20 stocks, no more than your club members can manage. If you have a portfolio of 5 members, then maybe each member can handle covering 4 stocks for the club. That would be a lot. And then I like to see no stock below 3% of your portfolio. That's a rule that is meant to keep you from being distracted by a stock for which you don't own enough shares to have any tangible impact on your portfolio. If you've got a stock that it makes up 1.5% of your portfolio, if it doubles overnight, that's a very small gain in your overall portfolio, and so I like to use that 3% rule. And again, you want to diversify by company size and diversify by sector and industry. And again, make sure you've got healthy chunks in all of the different sectors, the super sectors, as well as the sectors. Gary says, how do we enter the American Airlines stock distribution on February 14th? We no longer own the stock, but we were given 4 shares based on our prior holdings. It's not a buy. Russell, have you seen any information on that return yet, or on that merger transaction?
No, I haven't. So this is the first I've heard of that. So
Okay.
I'll have to be looking up American Airlines. And if he sends in a support request, I'll send them out right after I finish him. I'll send them out to him directly, and then off to Sean to be posted online.
All right. Yeah, Russell is our investigator of how to enter these mergers and spin-offs and acquisition transactions. So Gary, just come to this iClub.com support page and just make a note that you're looking for information on how to enter the American Airlines stock distribution on February 14th, and then that'll get routed over to Russell, and we'll get back to you with some guidance. The iClub.com FAQ in the support section, there's a section there for transactions, and Sean manages that. So we generally get everything. Sometimes it takes a couple of weeks after these transactions happen, depending on how popular they are and how many clubs are actually holding them. But that's where you'll find the instructions and guidance for how to enter those transactions in your books. So. All right, well, that's great. I think we're going to wrap it up now. I want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Russell, for coming out tonight. Thanks to all of you for coming. We'll look forward to seeing you next month. We'll be back on Tuesday, April 16th for our next club webinar. So we will look forward to seeing you all again next month. Thanks again.